Often we talk about spiral dynamics from an external point of view, as though observing it in the world and those around us. But I want to turn the tables here. How are our personal lives actually impacted by living at spiral dynamics stage yellow? I've reached out to experts in the field and spiral dynamics enthusiasts to tell me their stories, and they shared some excellent insights with me. In this video, we're going to unpack spiral dynamics stage yellow from the inside. Welcome to the Great Updraft. You're here with Ross. I make videos with tools for self-transformation, so do subscribe for the latest. If you're not sure what spiral dynamics is, I recommend you head to the link in the description for resources related to spiral dynamics before you watch this video. As I said, often we analyse the world, politics and culture and other people using spiral dynamics, but less often do we describe our first person experience of these stages. And my interest is in personal transformation, and I'm particularly interested in what's going on at the level of mind, worldview, behaviour, psychology and so on. And so we're going to dive into the markers of living at spiral dynamic stage yellow from the inside. And if you contributed on social media, please listen up, because I will mention you and what you shared. Let's get into it then, and do stick around for my favourite, which I will share last, the favourite marker that I will share. So the first marker that I'm going to talk about, the first marker of living with spiral dynamic stage yellow, is about seeing all the levels of human development active in yourself all at once, right down to the very basement, the very lowest ones. These are all still active, and a huge part of living at stage yellow and actually being there in your everyday life is seeing how all these levels contribute to your functioning and well-being in all kinds of situations. And this becomes a life-wide project, shall we say. At stage green, we sort of aim too high, as it were, as I like to say. We get too idealistic about human behaviour, human psychology, human actions, and we think that everything needs to come from the higher. I think at stage yellow we realise that it's not just the higher that's important. The lower also shares some really important insights with us, and if we incorporate the lower into our behaviour as well, then we're much well equipped to deal with the world and all the kinds of people that we meet. What we'll see is that we'll see there's a lot of unchewed meat, as it were. What I mean is that there's certain levels that we've passed through that have sort of taken a back seat, but that we've left a lot of lessons behind in. And part of the project of stage yellow is going back to those levels consciously, deliberately, and with intent, and reviving the lost lessons there, the things that we left behind, not necessarily the skeletons in the closet, but the unlearned lessons, and sometimes the skeletons in the closet. Let me share what Caroline Gay, who's called Instagram Leader on Instagram, who's called Integral Leader on Instagram, said to me about this. I now have permission to be all of these things and integrate these qualities as I embrace Tier 2 and Stage Yellow. The Tier 1 stages are all important to my functioning at a higher level of consciousness, and I can easily move up and down the spiral depending on the circumstance. So that's a really fantastic description, and I'll just say now that being aware of all of them is a gift, but it's also its own curse in a way, because it's not all rainbows and butterflies. It's not easy sometimes, because these levels actually fight amongst each other. And part of stage yellow, as I see it, is being the referee or the guardian that looks over all these levels and all their fighting. So for example, when I get angry at a person or a situation, I see that lower part of me that wants to just go crazy and express its anger and bash things up. But then I have those higher parts of me that are more restrained and more civilized. So having those coexist isn't easy. Sometimes it might actually be good to express anger with no limits, completely unfiltered. Express it. If you're in danger, for example, if you're being attacked, If you're facing someone who is doing the exact same and you need to defend yourself, well, what do? That's the gift. The downside is, well, you could also end up in jail. You could also hurt someone. And also, if you just let this anger run free, you might actually not be doing anything functional. You might be being quite dysfunctional in your behavior. So it's not easy. It's an ongoing project, an ongoing dance and discovery. Let me share what KSV said to me on the Integral Life community. My own experience has been the visceral recognition that all of the 6 stages of first tier have a necessary function, that each stage specializes in a specific subset of the human potential, that as we have grown through each stage, we have brought certain potential capacities online. Beautiful description of this, seeing all the levels active in you, and an isolated mind also on the Integral Life community. I remember the surreal moment I realized that every identity that I opposed held a piece to the puzzle that was truth. Overcome your first tier ego and throw all those puzzle pieces on the ground, and what else is there left to do but to get to work? I love the images of the puzzle pieces on the ground. That's a really evocative image. Great. So let's move on to the second marker of what I think it's like to live at stage yellow. This one is about seeing the levels active all around you. So the theory talks about this, but I want to describe it from the inside, what it's actually like to see this. And to stimulate this a little bit, I'm going to quote Ken Wilber. Yeah, and ever since I first read it, that Wilbur quote has really haunted me. And yeah, it really can be like this. It's like you see the levels speaking through other people. It's like they aren't speaking in a sense. It's actually the levels speaking through them. So for example, I can see, this is sort of a personal example, I can see today's obsession with equality and political correctness and egalitarianism, sort of the spiral dynamic, is an expression of spiral dynamic stage green. I can see that. Then I can also see someone like Elon Musk with the practicality and the success drive and the progress drive, which is kind of an orange expression, or sometimes lower. And then I can also see like religious fundamentalists and their obsession with obedience and tradition, and that's been quite active in the news recently with the abortion ruling, for example. That's really a spiral dynamic stage blue. And what it's like to me is that I'm tuned into all the different levels. I can see that in each of these expressions, these levels are active. And in a way, it's like I can see the limitedness of that perspective, because I've been through that level myself, and because I've read a lot of theory as well. I can see the limitations of it, and that the person holding those views or those motivations cannot see those limits. But at the same time, because I've already been there, and that's been sort of my core functioning in life, is I feel sort of a deeper understanding and sympathy that I'd never felt before. Although sometimes that can be frustration, pain, and fear. You know, some of the movement, the things going on in human life do scare me a little bit. But then the wiser part of me realizes that to trust is probably the better way to go, and to love the lower levels, and to realize that it's all in the hands of something much bigger than all of that. Great, let me quote KSV, who I think was on Reddit. Becoming less judgmental about the people who populate the first tier stages, we begin to respect those fellow humans who are hard at work at these other levels, that are not better or worse, and are equally vital to the human experiment. Beautifully put. And loving the plateau on Reddit. I used to demonize stage red. Now I appreciate stage red. Yeah, so can you love stage red in yourself and in others. That's a huge project to undertake. Great, let's look now at the third marker of living at stage yellow. This one's a deeper trust in the wisdom of evolution. That's how I'm going to put it. A deeper trust in the wisdom of evolution. And to accompany this, I'm just going to quote quickly from the spiral dynamics theory from Don Beck and Christopher Cohen. Yeah, so in everything that happens in human life and in my life, but in human life at large as well, I can see and feel evolution unfolding behind the scenes. It's sort of just like an innate recognition of what's going on, of the dynamics that is driving that, even in all the really unpleasant stuff that happens in human life. And this is obviously influenced by the fact that I've studied quite a lot of history. I've studied cultural evolution. I've also studied a lot of psychological evolution. So I'm sort of in alert mode for all these levels and all the dynamics that lead to human growth and progression. But I think this really is it's a stage yellow capacity to actually really trust in that, not just to see it and think of it as like an intellectual idea, but it's actually like it becomes your mode of operation, is to sit back and not get dragged into all the drama of human life. And of course, life isn't always easy and life isn't always pretty. But to me, even in the times of difficulty, there's a deeper trust, both in my personal life, but also when thinking about just the bigger problems of humankind. I'm also in alert mode for people saying things like, nowadays we, followed by something like, nowadays we're living in an ever more dangerous world, or nowadays human beings are so immoral, or we're in the most stressed, stroke violent, stroke disconnected, stroke anti-spiritual, stroke unhappy time in history. I just cannot get trapped in those storylines anymore. I just can't. Well, a lot of them are factually incorrect, but also I just have this deeper trust that things are evolving, and that part of the human operating system is to think that things were better in the past, but actually no, it's an evolving spiral, and we're actually riding a wave, as it were, at this time in human history. AI is a really good example of this, because AI for me, when I think of the ramifications, which I bet I'm not even scratching the surface of the ramifications of where it's taking us, it sort of opens up this door of uncertainty, and this sort of reptilian reaction in me wants to say, we shouldn't be doing AI, this shouldn't be a thing, what about human jobs, what about this and that? But when I actually sit back a little bit and I think about human history and I think about my own evolution and the evolution of human beings, it's like, no, this is happening for a reason. Like, this is a wonderful piece of technology. Yes, there might be downsides. Yes, in some cases it might be in the wrong hands. But if we step back and we really look at the big picture, this is happening for some reason, some ultimately divine reason that we don't really understand. And it takes a bit of distancing from the fear that's often accompanied by these big changes to see that and to have a deeper trust in the wisdom behind it. Let me quote fermented agave from Integral Life. My experience is one of peace with, freedom from reaction to life. And yeah, I think that's a beautiful expression of what it's like. Great, the fourth marker then, empowerment. So to start this one off, I want to just again quote, and this is going to be Claire Graves this time from his original research. And this is a description of his original stage yellow. So yellow for me has been a really empowering experience. After green was quite a depressing experience for me. And I've sort of now got more of that empowerment back. It's like Orange can be empowering because it's like it's about striving and achieving, only about striving and achieving and getting somewhere and dominating and being number one. I mean, yellow, that has to come back. It's had to come back for me because I missed it, but it comes back naturally as well. At yellow, though, it's sort of that's included, but it's no longer just about that. You know, it's more about expressing oneself. It's more about becoming oneself more authentically, finding an identity free of who other people expect you to be and free of all the dysfunctional things that people get involved in society. And it's not necessarily about gaining for myself in all this expression. It's not just about how much can I get, how much can I develop myself so that I can gain. No, it's like we realize that we're part of something bigger. We're part of the evolutionary process. And so we want to actually contribute with our self-expression. So it's not just gimme, 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 gimme. It's more like, right, how can I be authentic and fulfilled and experience wholeness and fullness and happiness and joy, but all while playing a deliberately bigger role in the grand scheme of things? And well, the Grey Updraft is really about that. So to me, this is like, we include the lessons from green, we include that sort of sensitivity and that desire to do good, but we also see beyond the sort of naivety of it, and we see beyond the naivety of orange, the sort of self-achievement drives, and we bring all the good parts together as much as possible. And for me, it's just been, it's been so needed after stage green. And it's a wonderful kind of personal freedom, I think. Let me quote MIT18SSS on Reddit. I don't know how else to say that, so I just had to spell it out. What I experienced is, whilst trying to improve the lives of the people around you, you develop a curiosity about everything and everyone. That for me is the start of yellow, wanting to learn and discover as a substitute for looking for happiness or looking for success. The world is so fascinating, it would be a crime not wanting to understand it all. So that is really, thanks for that. That is a beautiful description. I think really describes my own experience very well. It's like this personal empowerment, personal expression, but more of a fascination with life and a fascination with self and growth, rather than a fascination with money and success necessarily. Great. This is perhaps my favorite one. Let's get on to the final marker, which is multiperspectivalness. Bit of a long word, so just to see what this actually means, let's again quote from the spiral dynamics theory. Great, and I'm just going to reel off a few quotes here from people on social media because, this was a really common theme, and I want to let the quotes speak for themselves somewhat. Thanks to Meta Mega Wizard on Reddit, who said, "I'm always seeking what I might be missing from my perspective. What are my biases, blind spots, and projections? I'm much more hesitant to hold tightly to any perspective and opinion unless I've spent a great deal of time checking all the angles. It's very easy to change my mind when shown new information. Evolution makes much more sense, and I find it relatively easy to see how complex systems may evolve over time." Very beautiful description. Let me now quote Riles94, who said this to me on Reddit. "Open-ended thinking, a thinking that doesn't come to conclusions but just likes to think for its own sake, questioning the answers instead of the other way round. Seeing all perspectives of all people, no matter how good or bad they are." So now we're starting to get an idea of what multiperspectivalness means. It really means not holding tightly onto one perspective and trying to see how they can all fit together and dance together. I'm going to quote again MIT18SSS from Reddit. Stage yellow is a great equalizer. There is no right or wrong, no superior or inferior, just perspectives. That's a very chilling quote, I think. And finally, International Ad 1482, who I think was on Reddit as well. Neither of their views fully sat with me. Here they're talking about family members. Neither of their views fully sat with me, as I could always internally hear the rebuttal from the other side. So in an attempt to keep the peace in the house and within my own conception of reality, I attempted to synthesize their views and try and identify the truth or common ground. So yeah, multiperspectivalness, I think, is another, wow, it's really an enormous shift that comes online with Stage Yellow. And I think those quotes really beautifully express what multiperspectivalness is. So now it's over to you. So I want you to leave me a comment telling me what Spiral Dynamics Yellow is like for you, particularly picking up on one of these 5 themes, although if you have another one to suggest that I've not picked up on, please let me know. If you want to take your understanding of human development to the next level, I have a course where we really go into deep depth into the levels of development, their properties and your embodiment of them, much like I did in this video. So see the link in the description for that. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more tools for self-transformation, and I'll see you soon.